The 2027 National Defense Authorization Act, Section 224 or 219, depending on which version you're looking at, and I think they've decided on which one it's going into, uh, it's causing quite a bit of hysteria at the moment. This is the one that deals with uh, functions of the Israeli military uh, being streamlined or co-combined with certain functions within the Department of War. Now, depending on who is explaining it, it could mean an enhanced system of military cooperation between the US and Israel, or alternately, that the Jews will control us all. Now, to be fair to both sides, the language is at best murky. The people who live, or the people who are opposing it, kind of live on the border of Camp Anti Semite, and the people who are for it apparently have licked the wall. So, I'll give you a synopsis of my Israel position because I'm likely the most balanced and informed person can be on this topic. First, I have no religious stake. I am not a dispensationalist, and I don't view anybody currently occupying the region as having a God given right to be there. Some Arabs and some Jews have a legitimate ancient claim to the area. I speak of individuals, not collective groups. Palestinian Arabs were screwed over in many ways by the Ottoman government and the absentee Arab landlords from the 1800s to the early 1900s, but at the same time, a lot of this was done quite legally. Both sides have committed atrocities against each other. Both sides have legitimate reasons to hold a grudge. There's no way to disarm both sides. There is no reason to believe that if one side stopped fighting that the other would as well. There's hatred on both sides. They are culturally incompatible with each other. Both sides believe they have a God given right to each other's land, and the only way it ends is if one side goes away or capitulates absolutely. Israel is a modern nuclear power. There is no scenario where they surrender to the Palestinians in Gaza or are defeated by them. If we cut off Israel in a way where they are conventionally incapable of defending themselves, they'll almost certainly resort to nuclear weapons if they believe their existence is threatened. Now, due to a very complicated history, which I've outlined in other videos, I see the US and Israel as entangled. The United States has developed a system designed to flush kickbacks to our politicians, and Israel exploits it better than any other nation. I would like to see an orderly disentanglement of the Israel US relationship. I believe the Abraham Accords is the beginning of ending this entanglement. So, what does the 2027 NDAA Section 224 or 219 actually do without the hysteria attached? Well, it creates an executive agent position within the Department of War, which is filled by the Secretary of War. This executive agent would then have the power to streamline intelligence, research, training, and procurement sharing between the US and Israel. So, what does that look like, or what might it look like? So, I'm giving this as a purely neutral spin just to get the economics of it down. I'll critique the issues with it afterwards. So, example, Israel has a system called the Iron Dome, which is an excellent theater defense system against tactical and theater threats. This was developed in conjunction with the US, but primarily an Israeli system. The US has no integrated equivalent. They have many pieces that kind of look like it, but not a system like the Iron Dome. So let's say the US as policy decided that it wanted an improved Iron Dome to be defense against supply for the supply and command for forward deployed units. So what would happen is the executive agent would be empowered to fund the work to jointly Americanize the Iron Dome with Israel by taking the best parts of the Israeli system and fusing it to the best parts of the American systems. And this idea, concept, would work similarly with research. The executive agent would look at future systems, looking to where both sides could benefit with the fusion of research from both countries. And similarly, Israel and the US both have areas they excel at in intelligence that the others do not. Thus, fusing them together could be beneficial to both sides. In procurement, having multiple users of the same system or munitions helps keep inventories balanced and allows for flexibility in pricing. So, at least that would be the theory of it. So, let's talk about the good parts of this. Well, first, this would end aid to Israel. We would no longer have a line item in the budget that says, X billions of dollars going to Israel in aid. Second, Israel has interests in areas that would give us faster results on new weapon system testing. Third, Israel's human intelligence assets in the region are far better than anything we would ever be able to hope to achieve. Assuming better intel sharing than we have now, that would be highly beneficial. So here's the murky points. First, as the position is appointed by the Secretary of the Department of War and not Congress, it has kind of a mixed potential. On one hand, bought congressmen can't pick a lackey to fill this position because it's the Secretary of the Department of War. But on the flip side, if the Secretary of War is an Israel firster and picks the same for his executive agent, there appears to be no oversight on this from Congress at all. Second murky issue is there are vague references to the executive agent being able to coordinate various Department of War agencies with Israeli counterparts. It is not clear if he has the power to compel actions with these agencies or if those agencies within the US government retain autonomy to review and restrict. Here's the bad parts. First, there's no limit to the level of cooperation or any kind of indicator of a ratio or expectation of reciprocity. Without a metric, Israel could leverage research and procurement in amounts far greater than the aid they currently receive. Second, procurement of foreign systems or systems with foreign parts can be perilous. In the past, the US bought 2 Iron Dome defense systems from Israel that had to be scrapped. We needed to see source code in order to integrate it into our system, and Israel refused to release the source code. This sets up problems where if we have a dispute, we could end up with unusable systems. It also creates dangers that Israel could introduce backdoors into the systems that either spy on the United States or prevent the systems from being used in a manner that Israel disapproves of. Third problem, although Israel firsters love to gush on how much intel Israel shares with us, Israel in fact is very selective about what they share with us. We have often been given information after terrorist attacks, giving us the responsible parties to target. But at the same time, it's clear that the Israeli intelligence also had foreknowledge of these attacks and didn't let us know. Also, there is an issue where it seems strongly likely that Israel traded U.S. intelligence stolen by Pollard to the Soviet Union in exchange for Russian visas for Jews to immigrate. So, in other words, if Israel sees something that is more strategically important to their country than their relationship with the United States, they could repeat something like that again in the future. Fourth problem, weapons and munitions bound for Israel will end up having a compounding effect on the lobbying process of U.S. defense contractors. They will go from being mere suppliers to advocates for maintaining the existing contracts and expanding them further for Israel. In fact, they will become an advocate for the executive agent and the system that is set up under this NDAA process. Now, I'm not suggesting for a moment that Israel is a good or a bad actor. They are a nation state. They have interests of their own, which sometimes are at odds with us. They as a nation perceive themselves to be in a precarious position. They are far more apt to act unpredictably than any other nation we ally with, which doesn't believe it's fearing for its own existence. Now, the people screaming merger and claiming this is an Israeli takeover of the Department of War are moonbats. The people who are pushing this whole merger, which I don't really think it is, but I'll just use the term, the people pushing this are either blind to it or don't care about the pitfalls. So it's basically, to sum up, the idea of moving away from aid to Israel is a good one. And I think that should be a good step in the right direction for uh, any kind of change we make to our system. It's possible that some form of sharing agreement could be made that might work to achieve the end of aid while still being fully beneficial to the US. I have to say, in my opinion, that this current version of things is not safe or functional as it currently stands. Now, I'm not saying that there's no way anything like this could ever work. In fact, I think it's possible to redraft this in such a way where we could actually make this beneficial to the United States. Uh, right now, there's too much murkiness in there to know exactly what the long term outcomes are going to be. In fact, there's enough squishiness, and knowing our past track record, the odds are that it's going to end up being abused down the line. All right, in the comment section below, who's been following this whole NDAA thing? Is this news to you? What do you think? Do you think this is the greatest idea ever? Is it the worst idea ever? Do you believe my analysis basically kind of hits it on the head properly? Okay, please smash the like button. If the YouTube algorithm has brought you here and you're not a regular subscriber, check out my other titles. I get into lots of things. You will see things you will be interested in, so you should subscribe. And if you know someone who might find this interesting, please share it with them. Thank you for spending time with me this evening. Hope to see you again in a future video.